Okay, so it's been a while since I made an FPS tutorial. I stopped making them because the code wasn't good. I wasn't really happy with it. We're gonna try and improve on it, add some new stuff. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make it so you can equip different weapons. Okay, so our first goal is that we need a gun. So for gun models, I'm gonna use the comprehensive gun kit because I'm not here to model, I'm here to actually code the game. So we'll pick a gun, I think like an M4, M16. I'll drag it into the workspace. And I'll put it like here. Okay, what we're going to do first is we're gonna create a rig and go to plugins, rig builder, and we'll generate, you can do R15 or R6, I'm gonna go R6. You can generate a block rig. And in the rig, what we could do is we'll delete the humanoid, the head, the legs, and the torso. But there's an issue with this. The arms are blocky, and I want them to kind of be like rounded. There's multiple ways you can fix this. You can either like hop into a program like Blender, stretch out a cube, and then just give it a bevel, and then you can just import it in by adding a mesh part. And then changing the mesh ID. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hop on to the toolbox, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in viewmodel. We'll just choose like this one. So now we're going to delete the humanoid. I'll just rename this to fake camera. I'll set transparency to 1. And as you can see, it's got a string value called cam part. If we click on fake camera and we use a plugin called auto camera lock, then we can lock our camera to see what it looks like in first person. So if we deselect everything and then click on lock camera again, then we'll unlock the camera. So it's all rigged. Also, quick tip, just make sure everything's got can collide off, anchored off, and shadows off. But make sure the humanoid root part has anchored on. Okay, so now we're gonna add M4A1 to our arms. So we'll duplicate the arms, and we'll duplicate the M4. I'll enable snap to grid rotate. I'll set that to 90 degrees, and I'll rotate it. And then we'll move it into position. Make sure it's a big enough size. Make sure you look at reference to see how people hold weapons, because you don't want your weapon to be too big, but you also want it to look correct. Then I think that looks okay-ish. I think I can move it up a bit. Move it down a bit, I mean. No, it just doesn't look right. I'll rotate it a bit so it's like cool. Now what we can do is we can just drag the M4A1 group into the view model and right click and select ungroup. None of these parts are named, which is okay. We are going to go through and rename them. I have no idea what this part's called, so I'm just going to call it bolt flap. Okay, so that's everything renamed. So what I'm going to do now is make sure anchored, can collide, and cast shadows off for all of them. Okay, so I put it in the wrong view model, but now it's fixed, it moves. Okay, so we don't really have to worry about the size of this thing. So what I like to do is I'll pause it right now, so we don't have to run animations to do it. The right arm's already paused for us. We just have to do the left arm. Oh, I don't like that though. It takes up too much of the view. That's the only issue. Make sure it doesn't take up too much space, because it can get in the way when shooting, and that's not something we want. Unless you do, in that case that's fine. Okay, that's a bit better. We'll stick with this for now. I might improve it off camera, but it looks good enough. Now, if we use the fake camera, as you can see, it looks very far away, right? So we will select everything other than the fake camera and the humanoid root part, and we'll just move it back a good bit. And now if we use the camera, it's still quite far to the side. It just doesn't look too good. So I'm gonna enable the emulator by going to test and clicking device. Now I have this set to my monitor resolution. You could also set this to 1920 by 1080. That's what I tend to use. See, that's a lot better. I like that. That's good. Okay, so that's pretty much our rig. I'm gonna rename it Empire A1. But the issue is that it's not rigged. It's just gonna fall apart. So we're gonna use a plugin called Rig Edit Lite. Click on your view model and then click Rig Edit Lite. You'll see something like this. Now we're gonna click on humanoid root part. We're gonna select all of these and we're just gonna hit reset joints, so that'll fix everything. Now, really quickly, before we do that, we're gonna add in a part, which we'll drag over here. Set the size to like 0.1 by 0.1 by 0.1, and I'll rename this main. Set transparency to 1. Turn off cast shadow. Turn off can collide. Turn off anchored. So this is where the gun's gonna rotate when you move it, when you're animating it. I tend to go for somewhere like over here, where it would actually move in real life. But then we'll just drag it into the model. So now what we're going to do is in Rig Edit Lite, we're going to go from humanoid root part to the main joint. We're going to go from this, and we're going to do our welds first. So the barrel will be welded to it. Forward assist will be. Front sight, grip, handguard, lower receiver, rear sight screws, selector. Actually, no selector. Stock, attachment, and upper receiver. I'm going to weld those to it. So now we're going to, in the M4, we're going to select the main. We are going to select bolt flap, the bolt, charging handle, and the magazine. And create a joint. That's it, pretty much rigged. So now what we're going to do is in replicated storage, we'll make a folder, which we'll call it view models, and we'll just duplicate this and drag it into the view models folder. Okay, so now we actually need to write the main framework for the game. So we need to get the view model to show in game. So we're gonna add a script to start a player script. I'm gonna call it framework client, and then inside we're gonna make a couple of variables. So we'll start with local player equals game.players.local player, and then we'll say local character equals equals player dot character or player dot character added colon with. And now just to test this, we'll say a print character. So when we join the game, it should print the character. Yep, that's my name. So now what we can do is we can say a local user input service equals game colon get service user input service. And what user input service does is, well, it detects input. Then underneath we'll say local run service equals game colon get service, not user input service, run service. So what run service, what we're going to use it to do is we're going to use it to update the view models. Well, just update everything, really. We'll say local camera equals game.workspace.current camera. And then I think that's it for now. Yeah, that's about it. So then we'll say local framework equals, and then some brackets. We'll say inventory equals in these brackets, but down here we're going to put a semicolon. And then we're going to put our loadout in here. So number 1 is going to be our primary, so we're going to put a string. I'm going to call it M4A1. Make sure it's spelled exactly how it is in the view models folder, or else it won't work. I'll put like M9 or something here for secondary, and then we'll put knife there. Then underneath we can put like frag. Yeah, like something like that. So also here we're gonna say module equals nil. I will also say viewmodel equals nil. So that's all we really need in there for now. Underneath here we'll say function load slot, and in those brackets we're going to put item. So this is our item name that we're going to input later. Now what we'll do is we'll say local view model folder equals game.replicated storage.viewmodels. We'll also say local module folder equals game.replicated storage.modules. We don't have a modules folder yet, so we'll just create one now. So just add a folder and put it as that name, and then yeah. Oh, so we've got this. So also what we'll do right now is we will create a module script in there, and we'll call it M4A1. Again, making sure it's spelled exactly the same. Instead of return module, we're going to put settings with a capital S, and then return settings. So in here, what we're going to do is we're going to say framework.module. So this line here. Actually, what we'll do first is we'll say if module folder, colon find first child, item, then equals, we'll put framework.module equals module folder dot colon find first child, item. Actually, we need to put require in front of that, I just realized. So underneath we'll say load slot, framework dot inventory, these brackets, and then 1. So if we put 4, it's going to be frag. If we put 3, it's going to be knife. If we put 2, it's going to be M9. And if we put 1, it's going to be M4A1. And then we'll just copy the same code pretty much and put it in here. But we'll change this to viewmodel folder. And we'll say framework.viewmodel equals viewmodel folder colon find first child, item, clone. So down here we're gonna say run service colon dot render steps colon connect function. And what we'll say here is for I comma v in pairs camera colon get children, so any children of the camera. We'll say if the colon is a model, so we're checking if it's a model, and then v colon set primary part c frame camera.c frame. So what we're doing is we're getting the view model, which there's no primary part set. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong thing. There is a primary part set, and that's the humanoid root part. So we're setting the humanoid root part C frame to the camera C frame if it's a model and if it's a child of the camera. I just realized, so this code is working. There's one issue. We need to say framework.viewmodel.parent equals, well, camera. So now when we try it, there we go. We have a view model set up. It's very still. Not much is happening with it, but it's working. We can't change the item just yet, which we're going to do now. So if you've noticed that it does clip into things, that's not really fixable. You could try and move the gun away from walls when a player gets close, but we're not gonna do that. My mic wasn't working during this next part, so sorry about that. But basically I'm just rigging the M9 view model. It's pretty much just the same thing we did with the M4, so it's not that hard. Okay, so I just found out my mic was disconnected, so sorry. But now what we're gonna do is we're going to work on changing your item. So we're gonna say up here, we're gonna say current slot equals 1, which is default. Here we're going to say UIS, or user input service, dot input began colon connect function. We'll type input here, and we'll say if input dot keycode equals enum dot keycode dot we'll say 2 then, but we also need one for 1, and then we'll say if framework dot current slot does not equal 1, then, and then we'll just say load slot 1, and then we'll copy the same for 2, but we'll change all the numbers, and then we'll do the same for the amount of hotbar slots that we have. So now if we try it, boom, boom, oh wait, I've noticed a bug. We can equip multiple things at once. So in load slot, what we'll do is we'll say for I, v in pairs, camera get children do if v is a model, then v destroy. So now if we try it, it'll destroy the previous model and then clone the new one. So as you can see, we can change, but it won't let us change back to 1. Okay, so framework dot current slot equals 1, and we'll do the same for 2 and 3 and 4. Nice, so now we should be able to equip. Yep, there we go. So now we can equip between primary and secondary. We'll add an animation and stuff. It's very bland right now. What we're gonna do as one final thing is we are going to add an aim part to our view models. So we're gonna duplicate the main part. We'll get rid of all the joints in it, and I'll just rename it aim part, and the position of this part will be the body's position, and then we'll get the cam part thing and we'll put it into aim part. I didn't mean to do that. Keep rotating it the wrong way. Hold on. Yeah, there we go, and it's a bit off. So what we'll do is we'll move this up a bit and move it back a bit. Yeah, and these are for aiming down sights, which we're gonna do in the next episode. So what we'll do is we'll create a joint from that to the humanoid root part. The M9 we can just close and forget about for now. Also, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to duplicate it and put it into view models. So yep. We'll also delete the M4 that was there. Now the aim part's going to be very off, so we're going to have to go to rear sight. Where is it? There it is. And we'll set the position of that to, well, we'll set the aim part's position to that position. So now what we can do is we can line it up, move it a bit. As you can see, it's a bit off. So what we'll do is we'll move it a bit. I think that's alright. Could be moved over a tiny little bit. That's good enough. We'll leave it at that. So now I'm just going to quickly create a joint between the humanoid root part and the aim part. And I'll just duplicate that and put it into modules. So yep, that's working and that's working. Now if I go into camera, select the aim part. Yep, the aim part's there for me. In the next episode we'll do aim down sights, walking and running animations, and well, walking and running. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you did. I'm almost at 100 subs, so if you can subscribe it'd mean a lot to me, and thanks for watching. I'll see you later.